There it is. There we go. I can see myself here. Can I see myself on YouTube? I don't know. Hang on, let me raise you up a bit more. Plonk, plonk. Okay, I think that's better. Hello? Is it working? Who knows? All right, you know what? Let's not let's not do this to myself because this is making things harder for me. Okay, I'll just have a sip of coffee. Hopefully, I don't burn myself. With that much slurping, I don't think there's a way anybody can burn themselves. Okay, hang on. Alright, so there was a question about, because I made a little reel about positioning and I was stood up. And there was questions regarding that. So, is it much better with the strap? While stood up, yes. While sat down, it can be helpful for your balancing. I'll show in a sec. I don't have one, so I just play sitting down, and when the guitar is placed on my neck, it'd be nice to see the same correct hand posture, but from the back. Yes, that's why I raised you up. That was the reason why, so that I can actually turn around and show you, because in my chair, I can't chop properly if I'm turned around. Alright, let's turn an amp on. And yes, so let me actually sum up what I said about the posture. Oh, that's a bit too tall. There we go. Now you're at my eye level, maybe, or lower, I don't know. Where's my pick? There it is. Yes, so what I was showing is that, well, it's one of the things that I see a lot of, which is where we have a bent wrist. So sometimes that's because people hold their guitars very much like this, so kind of parallel to the floor, and it's kind of difficult to have a straight hand without twisting yourself in that case, right? So you basically turn up the neck and then you have a flat wrist. So let's see, from the back as requested, what happens with the thumb? The thumb remains pretty similar. Yes, actually, sometimes my thumb is like this, basically kind of parallel or more like diagonal on the neck as opposed to like this, right? So if it's basically straight out like this, then you'll probably bend your wrist. And don't get me wrong, when you play something stretchier, you know, it's kind of difficult to get your wrist to be straight. Unless like you go to extremes, but you know, for short amount of times it is okay to bend your wrist. That's fine. But yeah, for prolonged times, a bit risky. You can hurt your wrist, you can get repetitive strain injury, you can get tendinitis, basically inflammation of the wrist. You don't want to do that, and at the very least your wrist might start hurting, you know, even if it's nothing serious. Best to avoid creating such habits. Sorry, my fringe is being really unusual today, so I'm trying to... Oh well, whatever, you can deal with it if I can deal with it. Okay, so yes, the thumb. So the thumb is quite rarely perpendicular to the neck of the guitar. Most of the time, well, because we're not robots, basically. If we were robots, then our hands maybe would have been more square, and then we would have been able to play like this and having our fingers parallel to the frets also. But in fact, most of the time our fingers are like this, curved, right? So they are curved and our thumb is also diagonal. And you can see this very clearly also in classical instruments like violin, right? So if you imagine you have a violin, you kind of hold it like this. I've been told, I do not play the violin, but I have been told. And because you don't have frets there, you don't feel like, oh no, one finger needs to correspond to one fret, but it can't reach there to be bendy, and it's got to be like this. And that's how you start getting problems. Because that was my kind of mentality a while back, because, well, I wasn't any wiser. So yeah, I was like, oh yeah, it's gotta be like that, it's gonna be perfect. It's like, well, yeah, but your hand is not is not straight lines, you know, it's not a box. So yeah, we've got to follow our anatomy and what's comfortable. So yeah, what happens to the thumb? Basically, if your guitar is low, your thumb would tend to be, if you're like this, you'll tend to get a bit of a wrist bend, right? But even if your guitar is low, if your thumb moves a bit, you see that your hand can straighten, right? So just imagine even just having your hand like this. You see how your thumb is like this, but if you do your hand like this, then you have a bend. You know, even if you don't have a guitar neck in your hand, you can kind of figure this one out like that as well. Yeah, so thumb positioning doesn't have to be straight, right, like this. And of course, the other thing is I am showing you my thumb, but your thumb will be different to my thumb and your guitar will be different to my guitar, and the correlation between your guitar and yourself and my hand and my guitar is probably going to be different. So the key is basically to aim for this straight line from your knuckles to the elbow. Let me get a warm drink. Whoa, okay, hang on. That's too hot. I need something for my throat. Hang on. Boo. There we go. Sorry, my throat has been extremely dry recently. I believe it's because I painted this wall. And maybe I'm allergic to that paint. I don't know. But I painted it on one of these days. One of these days. Okay. Just one of those days when my throat is dry. AF. Okay. Thumb. Cool. How does the thumb position change when you hold a chord that demands a wide reach of your fingers? Okay. So for example, I think that's the widest chord that I like playing. And I can't really play it without a bend, so you see that my thumb is actually quite parallel to the strings. I probably can make it better by having my guitar further up like this. In which case my thumb still like that, but yeah, kind of, oh, you can't see that very well, can you? Hello, camera? See here, camera? Come on, camera. Okay, so my thumb sometimes is here. What's happening? That's irritating. Okay, let's stop this light. Maybe that's what's happening, or do I need to increase it? Nope. Nothing's helping. Okay, whatever. Well, sometimes the thumb is like so. Right, kind of pushing here, not really pushing actually, but it's just against the fretboard, and sometimes it's here. But again, it can vary from person to person. And what's a usually wide chord? For example, ooh, I've gone out of tune since I've been teaching. So I'll see a more commonly used wide reach chord, which is not too wide, but there's a few of those. And I'll show you what happens with those as well. But again, it varies from person to person. So this one, for example, E7. Let's do it like this. So it's an E, and you add the little finger here, and the thumb is still here diagonally for me. Or this one, some people find this to be wide reach, which is G7. My thumb is still here diagonal. What is another wide reach chord? Maybe bar chord. Yeah, let's go with F7. And I'm showing you down here because as we move up the fretboard, our frets become closer and it's not as wide reach anymore. So yeah, F7, still diagonal, but you see, a little bend has appeared here. And that's why a lot of the time I'll play instead of the F7. Sorry, I'm really... Okay, you know what? I'll open for a bit of air. That really doesn't feel too good. It feels like the massivest allergy. Oh my god, it's so dry. I'm struggling to talk now. Fantastic. Not like I have to teach or anything. Sorry, I'm grumpy. Ooh. Okay. Woo. So next questions were about being sat down. So let's get you lower. Let's get my chair in the picture. Me. Let's move me a bit back. Let's get a bit lower further. There we go. You can see me. Yes, you can see me be sat down. Okay, so is it better with a strap when you're sat down? It can be if you're like just doing stuff like that, so your guitar doesn't fall off and you can be comfortable with that. And also it doesn't really matter, because once you have your guitar on a nice balance, it's good. And the other thing is that's tougher to keep, when it's tougher to keep balance is often if your guitar is basically flat against your body, so perpendicular to you. That can also sometimes make your wrist bend, because it's kind of too close. But if you push it forward and have your guitar a bit diagonal, then it's easier to have your wrist straight. And yeah, basically, usually when I'm teaching, I'm actually facing this way, right, so that my guitar can be shown and people can see me. And sometimes I twist my body and then my back starts hurting. But you know, in general, you know, that would be my personal most comfortable position. Of course, the diagonal and like what sort of a diagonal is it and all that sort of stuff can vary from person to person. For me, let's see, what sort of angle is that? So if we imagine that my body is a plane going downwards, then this angle here is what, about 30 degrees? Yeah, maybe a bit less than 30. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful to you. I hope that it is, though. here's some info about that. But yeah, basically make sure that you're comfortable and you can be as relaxed as possible, right? So I'm not, see, if I let my guitar go, it will stay there. If I tilt it a bit, then maybe not, but if my hand is here, it won't fall, right? Because there's some friction between my hand and the guitar. And I don't need to be propping it up with my left hand. Is it much better with the strap? I don't have one, so I just play sitting down. And yeah, that's totally fine. You don't need to be playing stood up. The only time I'd recommend definitely playing stood up is if you want to be playing stood up with others or on stage. Then practicing stood up will help you massively, because you don't want to all of a sudden, for example, go into a rehearsal room with some other people and then that be your first experience of playing stood up, because then in 15 minutes your shoulder will hurt, probably, depending on how heavy your guitar is and all that sort of stuff, and what sort of stuff you've been carrying in your everyday life or something, I don't know. But it's quite uncomfortable to have a guitar on your shoulder all the time. It can be, until you get used to it, kind of like, you know, your fingertips. They're quite uncomfortable when you first start playing, but then you get used to it. And yeah, so you don't need to be playing stood up, only if you are planning on doing so in general. And when the guitar is placed on your leg, it becomes a bit straining to hold the neck pointing upwards with your left hand after some time. Yes, so yeah, you don't want to be holding onto the guitar with your left hand. So if you're doing that and your guitar is very slippery or something, it's falling off of you, maybe do use a strap. Maybe that would help you out, to be fair, because it's one more thing that helps you be relaxed, right? That's the point of it, because if you're worried that your guitar will fall off, then you will tense in some way, even if it's to hold it in place with your left hand. But yeah, in fact, my guitar doesn't fall off when I play it, right? And it is, like, let me face you, you know, it is pointed upwards and it is in a diagonal direction. And it's in as pointed upwards as is comfortable for me when I'm sat down. When I'm stood up, my guitar tends to be a little bit lower, so my bend needs to be a little bit bigger, I guess. But yeah, also when I'm stood up, the guitar, depending on the strap, it might slide down as well, right? So this strap is a cheap strap that, you know, everybody would have access to those. So then you may need to hold on to your guitar a little bit, but again, try to use your right hand as well for that. Because look, once I've relaxed my arm on the guitar, and again it's not parallel to my body, right? Again, it's at an angle here to my body. So once my arm is relaxed here, then it's fine. And I don't even notice, I don't notice in general that I'm actually holding it with this hand down, holding the body down. So my neck is up, basically. But I guess now that I'm thinking about it, that's what's happening. And yeah, okay. So yeah, don't hold it up with your left hand. That would be very tiring. It wasn't that cheap, wasn't it? Well, I don't know. I stole it off of Renton. But you know what I mean. Every guitar shop has those, and there's. Okay, I guess it's not from the rough ones, it's a bit more slick, so maybe the rougher ones that are a bit more uncomfortable are cheaper, actually. Thinking about it. So yeah, you offended your guitar strap that I have stolen from you. But you know, it's not one of those leather ones with big padding and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's a difference as well. So yeah. Also, speaking of which, there's straps that are leather or other materials as well, that will have sort of like a velvety thing underneath, just because we have nice leather ones. Yes, we do. So yeah, I do have leather ones, and they also have, it's not called velvet, what is it called? Velour? Suede, that's the English word. So like suede, that's a bit more grippy, so it doesn't slide off of you so much. But yeah, leather in general is also stickier, so it doesn't slide off as much unless you have very dry skin, maybe. I mean, just natural sweats kind of stick to stuff. So yeah, I don't have to be dripping sweat for stuff to stick on you. All right. What was the other stuff? So yes, don't keep holding with your left hand, because that will be very difficult to advance with also if you get into the habit of doing so. Because you won't be able to relax your left hand, and you won't be able to therefore play fast and just be chill while playing as well. So yeah, try a strap. Try the cheapest strap if you want. It doesn't really matter. Just something to make it so that your guitar doesn't fall off if you let go, so that you can be calm about that and that it doesn't do that for you. Also, it will. Okay, so I did the one with the thumb. All right, I've covered all the questions. Lovely, but we've also run out of time. So yeah, I guess I was thinking of showing you maybe some Nirvana. Apologies. But let me know if you want to see that, and I'll do it in our next live lesson. It should be in a couple of weeks. So what's that? The 11th of February. Let me just write it down. So this is the 11th of February is going to be our third lesson for 2023. And that's that. So yeah, every 2 weeks. And if you get any questions in the meantime, let me know. But yeah, next time it might be again on Instagram. I'm not 100% sure yet. I will figure things out, and yeah, that's it. I hope you have a lovely weekend. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, and keep being awesome and keep playing guitar. You're great. And just enjoy it. Enjoy your instrument. And I hope that